Welcome back to the Prometheus Podcast. I'm today joined with Luke, Ali, and myself, Henry. How you boys doing?
Yeah, doing alright. Feeling a lot better than last week, that's for sure. Just finally recovered. I got still a bit of a bit of a cough. Not really though. It's more just sometimes I try to get a few sentences out, and then all of a sudden I feel myself short of breath.
Yeah.
But yeah, feeling much better. So yeah, I'm wrapped to get this episode sorted.
You say you feel much better, but you sent me a Snapchat at 4 a.m, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know as well. I feel like I got like a snap at like 3.
Like this morning? Or?
Yeah.
That's when I just woke up. What? Yeah, so I wasn't sick. Come on, that's just a bit of a routine.
It's like before the sun comes up.
How about yourself, Harley?
Yeah. Second last week of uni, so counting down, but almost there, almost to freedom.
Almost. You like just taste that freedom.
Yeah. I mean freedom because I've still got another semester, but freedom in the short term.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I thought for today's topic we could talk about something that probably is super underrated and something that most people don't talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And to me that is gratitude. So I think that we live, especially in the Western society, we're fortunate to be surrounded by relative abundance. Even the worst of us in Australia are still doing it pretty well.
Yeah.
And I think, and especially when you're spending as much time in the city as I do, when you're surrounded by people, you kind of become. You just feel like people are in your way, you don't see them as human beings anymore. You're just like, oh, I need to get on the tram, like get out of my way. There's 100 students here. I'm just trying to get on with my day, or I don't know. It's just we live in such a culture of outrage and just being, pissed off all the time, being sad, being angry over stuff that is at the end of the day probably pretty marginal. It's probably not something that's really worth spilling tears over, but I think that since we are so comfortable and we do have so much, we do just tend to get caught up in the emotions of things, when in reality if we took a minute to kind of stand back and be like, wow, we have so much, life is actually pretty good, even if you're not at where you want to be in life, just being appreciative of what we have right now. And I wanted to, I might throw it to you first, Henry.
Yeah.
What in your mind does gratitude entail, and how do you practice your own form of gratitude on a day-to-day basis?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a really good topic, gratitude. For me personally, I think I'm just thankful to just be alive every single day, to kind of have a roof over my head. It's just a little, I feel like I should be gratitude. Well, for me, gratitude is just like all the small things in life and the big things in life, obviously. But I really appreciate all the small little things in life. Like, if someone's just like, oh, hey, how's your day? I'd be like, yeah, it's been good. How's your day? And I'd like keep a conversation going. Or it's like, at the end of the conversation, I'd be like, have a good day. It's just little things like that is the way I like to show gratitude. It's like, try and brighten up someone's day. But for me personally, I think one thing that I find that I do really, really often is every time I wake up, I'm like, I'm so happy that like I've got a roof over my head. I can actually live like the way that I want to live, and just like being able to be appreciative of just like having food, having clean access to water, just all these little things to me is just a blessing, really.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, and that's the whole first world. And you were just saying it, like in Western society, so a lot of us, and I don't know, maybe it's just a bit of human nature, but it's always first world problems. It's I'm late for work or traffic this, like you were saying with the train example, and a lot of people find all the little things to complain about, but like what you're saying, Henry, there's actually quite a different perspective when you're appreciating the little things, not just complaining about every type of little topic. Because even just, I don't know the exact science, you might know it, Ali, but even just being alive, the kind of lottery of being alive, it's crazy. It's hundreds and hundreds of like trillion odds to
I know Gary Vee says it's 300 trillion to 1.
Yeah, well that's it. And that's, again, you think about it, that's not just your life, and that's not just you come into existence, that's your parents' life, their parents, your great-grandparents, that's you surviving, or your generation surviving the wars, the plagues, just everything. So even just that in general is what I think is enough to put just to like shrink your ego down really and put you in the place and go, wow, just even being alive, not even just taking out the first world part, even just like being alive that's something to be grateful for. And the fact, of course, then if you are living in a place like Australia, it's obviously just stacks up and you go, well, no matter how bad it is, like you're saying, you could take the worst of the worst. It's not that bad in comparison. So it's enough to be grateful for.
And how would you boys consider, what's the best way to achieve that balance? Because of course, gratitude doesn't mean complacency. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong, because they think, well, I don't want to get caught up in being grateful for the things I have because I'm hungry for more and I want to always be growing and achieving other things. And I think that's a complete misconnection, because again, gratitude doesn't mean complacency. Gratitude just means you're showing respect and appreciation for the life that you have, whilst also being able to, reach your hand out and want more for yourself. But sometimes in that process, you do tend to begin maybe comparing yourself with other people who have already achieved what you want to achieve, or you see that delta, that gap between where you are and where you want to be. And sometimes that can cause feelings of ingratitude, or you can start feeling, well, maybe, I don't know, you might start feeling bitter about your situation, as opposed to, and again, I think I've mentioned this before, it's the same way that you look up to your heroes, there's probably someone out there looking up to you in the same way.
Yeah.
So if you see a lifestyle that you appreciate, that they've got nice cars, they've got a big house, there's definitely some, fresh migrant family that's looking at your lifestyle and going, wow, you can do that. Like, that's not even something that we think about. So how do we balance our perceptions of where we are in our life, where we're going, and how we relate to other people?
All right. Well, for me personally, I definitely do find myself comparing myself to others like so many times. Like, it's like, oh, this person has this, but I think the one thing that always humbles me down is I look back from where everything came from in my life, and I think back like, my mom and all that, like how they all came to Australia and all that first, and I think just looking back to that, looking back to how things were when growing up, it always brings me back down, and I'm like, all right, well, I need to stop being like, why isn't my life like this, and start being like, whoa, I've actually got like pretty like good from where it used to be. And for me, if I can always just relate back to like this whole little bad situation back in the day, I find that like I don't like, I guess, kind of get upset at how others' life is better than mine, because mine's doing well already from back then.
Yeah. Well, you made a post on it with your photography actually, when you were describing something similar to that, and that's the whole like how are you measuring fulfillment? And that's, you described it as, I'm pretty sure you described it as when you're kind of reflecting back on like you're saying, where you were to where you are now, and then you can appreciate that in the moment, because like you're saying, it's easy to look ahead and say, well, I'm not here comparing to person A, B and C, but you can always at least look back to your past achievements and your past memories and go, well, I am growing, and if I'm growing, then that's enough, and I need to appreciate that and respect that, because because we're always growing, so you can always look back and appreciate that at least aspect. You always at least have that, I feel. But how about yourself? What are your thoughts to that?
Yeah, I think gratitude's something that's wasn't always on my radar. It's kind of come onto my radar more recently, because the way I see it is the present moment's kind of all you really have. The life you live right at this exact second. And I've always kind of been fascinated with this idea of arriving at the life that you want. And is there a time when you just suddenly arrive? Is there a day that you wake up and you go, oh, this is everything I wanted, I'm finally here? And for the longest time, I thought there was an arrival date, that eventually you would arrive and everything would be good from that day onwards. And that was the biggest source of misery for me for so long, because it was an illusion. It's a phantom. It's false. There's no day that you arrive, because that day will feel the same as this day does, because you'll wake up and you'll still be the same person. You'll still, yes, your material surroundings might have changed, but that won't be your source of fulfillment once you get there, because it's all relative, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you're walking on a treadmill. It's like you've walked X amount of distance, and yes, that distance has grown, but where you are relative to you, it's always going to feel like you're just there.
Yeah.
So unless you can feel grateful for where you are, even if you get there, you're not going to be happy when you are there.
Yes.
I think happiness is a skill you learn regardless of your external situation. So if you can learn to be appreciative and joyful and grateful and want to pour into the cups of the people around you and share your knowledge, share your wealth, and give back to your community in that way, well, yes, I think that's a much more sustainable way to be happy. And you don't need millions of dollars to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You can be at any end of the spectrum. It's as simple as, on the very bottom end, sharing water with a person in your village who doesn't have water. Just doing that. Or if you're a multimillionaire, this guy hit the front page of Reddit the other day. He paid off 400 students' college loans for $40 million.
Yeah.
And that's on that extreme end, because he was a black man and he lived in a black community, and all those college students went to a black college. And he said, well, I've gotten wealthy, I want to give back. And that's how they're doing it. But again, it's something that you say, Luke, all the time. It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. Sorry, I butchered that. It's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice. So what half a cup of water means to one person, $40 million means to another person, right?
Yeah.
And I think if we were living in those lives, that would be the equal sacrifice. So what is the equal sacrifice in your life? And how can you use that as currency for gratitude and happiness, as opposed to always be stretching your arms out in certain areas and potentially being disappointed because you're not where you think you should be. So me and Hendry have shared our perspectives on gratitude, but and I know it's not potentially something that comes natural to you, Luke, because it's not just knowing you personally. It's not really a conversation we've had.
Yeah.
But I'd be interested to know what the big bad wolf thinks about something that is, potential on the surface level as like woo-woo as gratitude. But I think it is important. I'd like to know what your thoughts are, even if you do disagree with anything.
Yeah. I was similar to what you were saying. It's never been something that has been on my radar, like at all. Or well, not at all, but excuse me. But something that has like gratitude's just never been on the radar. To me, I've always just focused on, and similar to what you said, focused on the present moment and what I need to go do to get to where I want to go. And that's just always been my mindset. I'm always there. It's not like and I keep busy, right? So it's not like I sit back and go, you know what, where I am now compared to here, I'm grateful for all these things. I obviously think that, but just me keeping busy, trying to keep working to where I want to go, it's not like I take much time to sit back and reflect. But it really is like you're saying, it's type of a skill set, because if you're ever feeling unhappy or you're ever feeling miserable, I think it's a real fine skill to be able to make yourself feel better, because you can reflect on what you have done and what you have achieved. So, but if I think about gratitude just for me personally, and what I'm grateful for, similar to what you just said, definitely kind of my upbringing and with my mum, because she sacrificed so much to raise me and my two brothers, and whether that was sacrificing her dreams or her health or just anything else like that. So I can really always reflect back on her and how she raised me and my brothers and be grateful for that 100%. And a similar mindset, like I said at the start, just the fact of whatever Gary Vee said, 300 trillion. I mean, just the thought of that is enough for me to go, I can do something with my life, and I want to do something with my life, because even just existing is a blessing enough. Like I shouldn't just And that's a big drive for me to not just do something like very mediocre, because you sit back and go, wow, do you understand how lucky you are? And how lucky I am? And like you said, you could be the very worst of the worst in a first world country, but you still have absolutely no idea what it's like to be in a third world country. So that perspective that I have on even just existing in general is, yeah, like I said, it's enough to squish my ego into place, and for me to sit back and go, wow, this is a lot's happened, and I'm grateful for just even being here. So I'll do what I can to help people out, and in whatever way possible.
Yeah.
But,
and it is so powerful, gratitude, because insecurity, I think, fuels fear and anger. I think a lot of negative emotions that people experience, if you were to boil it down to the root cause, I think it's always insecurity. So why do people get angry and mad about stuff? They get mad because they feel insecure about something. So whether that's your family is being threatened, or your financial well-being is being threatened, your social status is being threatened, that is insecurity, and then we react by being angry. So it makes sense that, well, why did so many people vote in the recent election for really conservative politics that potentially wasn't friendly to migrants and people who were trying to escape hardship in their country? Well, it's anger and fear towards those minorities born out of insecurity because they're looking out for their family.
Yeah.
And when you boil it down to that, yes, you can both sympathize with those people, but you can also see the destructive influence that insecurity has, because they don't literally hate brown people, or they don't literally hate Asians, or they don't literally hate Sudanese teens, or these people who are coming across in search of a better life. That's not literally what they feel. It's the narrative their mind has painted, because what they're feeling is insecurity for themselves and their loved ones. And what I think gratitude does is gratitude kills insecurity, because gratitude is an emotion that when you're truly feeling grateful, you can't feel anything negative alongside it. You can't be grateful and angry at the same time, and you can't be grateful or sad or fearful at the same time. When you're grateful, that's all you feel. So when you bring gratitude to the table, and gratitude can squash out insecurity, or then you also squash out anger and fear and hatred. So if more people were grateful, or then you wouldn't have so many people who might have racist feelings or discriminatory feelings, or just not treating their fellow human beings with potentially the dignity and respect that they deserve, simply because your fear and insecurity is forcing you to think very narrow-mindedly on protecting your own, whereas gratitude can expand that feeling that you have for your family, but apply it to everyone, right? So I think that was just a powerful thought I had whilst you were talking, Luke. But I guess just to segue to the next bit, it would be, what's a good practice or a good way to zoom out, or potential ways that you guys zoom out when you are caught in your day-to-day lives? Because when you are just living day-to-day life, and it happens to the best of us, we get caught up in that moment, and we start getting angry about things, we start getting stressed and anxious about stuff, and it's hard to be grateful when the thing you're engaging with right now is causing you a sense of stress, or causing you a sense of just anxiety. So how do you guys take a breath and sort of contextualize your situation to zoom out and give yourself that feeling of security that sometimes we need?
Well, definitely, like you said it straight on, like spot on. I mean, we all get so caught up in our whole daily lives, and you go to uni in the city, I work in the city. You kind of like realize that everyone's just kind of like all in their own mindset, where they
cities are so bad for just mental health and the way you feel for other people, because you, again, it's just, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I'll let you get back to it. But it's just a quick little droplet. It's just that there's just so many people, right? And you just get so jaded about, because it's easy when you're having a conversation one-on-one with a person to feel for them and feel empathetic and want the best for them. But when you're surrounded by thousands and thousands of people, and I don't know, you just get so irrationally angry and annoyed at all these people that are in your way, when in reality you're in their way as well. Everybody's in each other's way, and I think that's the epitome of the selfish mindset, where you are at the center of the universe and everything around you is just in your way. But I'll let you continue. It's just
but that was
the frustrations of city life.
It is, yeah. I definitely can relate to that. But pretty much it's like, I don't know, I find myself getting so caught up in all these things that, like, the little things, like you were saying, like people walking too slow, that kind of like annoys me, and I'm just like, oh, can you please walk faster? Or it's like the train is like delayed, and I'm like, man, what is wrong with our train system? But what I find is, like going back to the past or something, like relating back to that, traveling helped me in my mindset to be very thankful and fortunate to be able to travel in as well. But the one thing I find that really helps is that I shouldn't be taking all these things for granted, because there's others who want the same lifestyle that I have right now. Like there's others that want to be able to go to school, there's others that want to, catch the train to go somewhere, and it's like I need to take a step back and actually reflect on how my current situation is and how good my current situation is, to be able to, appreciate all the little things, like, oh, this train's delayed, oh, that's all right, like another one's, it'll come soon. Or it's like, this person's walking too slow, maybe, they can't walk any faster or so. And it's like, I have to understand that I shouldn't be so caught up in my head that, like, oh, like, you should be walking faster, because it's like, people can't, like, you can't control the way a person walks or something. And like traveling helped me so much. It's like visiting all these different situations, like countries, and seeing how others have it there, and then how I have it back here. I'm like, well, like, we have it so good here that like I shouldn't take anything for granted back home. But I think for me, this might just be me kind of thing, I really like cars and all that, so going for a drive really clears my head. And really kind of like helps me get caught up in my brain and kind of like debunk everything that's kind of like meshed up together.
And what's annoying you, and then that's exactly what I was going to say, but not driving. So for one, I think you nailed it. So traveling is always one, and we always talk about it, and that's just because it's so powerful, and every young person needs to do it, because straight away your mindset changes and you can appreciate so much things about where you currently are if you travel to a third world country or another country that might not be doing so well. It doesn't have to be completely third world. You could just go to certain countries on how they operate, and maybe they don't have a train system, maybe they have a worse train system than Metro. Which you might not believe.
That's true, I don't believe.
Well, like, and you just see it a bit differently. But so I think traveling is one. But to answer your question, Ali, I think you need to have a hobby or an outlet to escape, because, and you mentioned it, it's the city, right? So the city is the definition of you're just in that rat race. Everyone's, like you're saying, you're in the center, and there's trillions of people just bumping into you and annoying you, and you're doing the same to them because it's so heavily populated, so you can't escape it. And you can't escape a lot of things. You can't escape going to your job or sitting in that office, being surrounded in that cubicle. You can't escape serving that food if that's your job, or going to university. You can't escape those things because they're just part of the way the world works. That's part of what you need to do to have an income, to take care of your family, or whatever means necessary. So the ability to, there's a little puppy crying, but the ability to the need to actually find a hobby or an escape. And it could be simple. So for me, I'd say I'd have two. So if I was really feeling under the pump, I'd love to just go hiking, because that's the definition of escaping that, because it's the complete opposite of being in the city. So if you're hiking, if you're camping, and you're just away from the world, and you're just like looking at a fire at night, which is like one of the best things to do. You're just chilling there. You might be chilling there with a couple of people. You might even be by yourself, but you got nothing going on. And for me, that's probably, I probably have two, but even just sitting there at night looking at a fire, you're 100% in the moment, and you're just like in a trance in that moment. So you're appreciating it, and you're grateful for that moment. Whereas if you're at your job, you're not in the moment. You're thinking about the past, present, future, the job, this, that, because there's nothing else to think about, or you're bored, or for whatever reason. But if you're out there, summer's night, fire going, just looking at a fire, or just talking to the person next to you, that's when it kicks in, and that's when that present awareness kicks in. And I know you talk about it a lot, and I wouldn't mind you diving into that meditation aspect side of it, which you might have been thinking about. But then my next one as well is then, so if it's not hiking, then that's when I'm saying you got to capture a hobby, because then mine would be, like boxing or martial arts or just something like that, where I could just shut the world out, listen to some music, or just chill out, go into my garage and just like let loose on the boxing bag, just chill out, be in my own world a bit. And then that's just such meditation, and that's just so relaxing for me. And then I get to escape. So I think traveling and having an outlet, I think they're crucial.
Yeah, and I'm glad you did mention how certain things that you do give you that present moment awareness, because to me that's potentially the biggest thing I've implemented in my life to redirect in terms of where my mental state was going and where my emotional state and just my overall well-being. Whether that is through meditation or other ways you can generate present moment awareness. It's very cliche when you talk about it, because to me, you could die at any moment, or any moment could be your last. So to me, it's, well, what do you want your last moment to be? Because the moment that you have now is basically all you ever had, and it's a bit abstract, but the way I see it is that the past doesn't really exist, because the past, it's just a memory, right? It was there, but and it gets a bit philosophical, so hopefully it's not too heavy, but in the past it could have just been fabricated, it could have just been, like maybe you were just created right now, and your whole entire past was just a memory that was uploaded into you. So you don't even know if that's real or not. So the past is just, it exists in your head. There's no physical indication of the past ever. The past is only ever in your head. So, and the past is never in the moment. So the past, for as far as we're concerned, doesn't truly exist. And the future doesn't exist either, because it hasn't happened yet. You can have plans, but those plans don't exist. You have a birthday in a month or in a couple of weeks, that birthday doesn't exist, because again, that's in the future. There's no guarantee that the future will even ever come to be. So if the past doesn't exist in the present, the past doesn't exist and the future doesn't exist, then the only thing that's really left that you have is the present. And the present moment is only you only experience it in 1 millisecond slices. So all you ever really have is that 1 millisecond, and that's your whole entire universe, that 1 millisecond. So what do you want that 1 millisecond to consist of? And you see, and what gives me the biggest sense of sadness is when you'll be driving down the freeway or something, or down a road, and you see someone accidentally get cut off to the side of you, and you look into their car, and they're alone in their car, but they're just screaming and they're yelling, and no one can hear them, and they are alone in their misery. And their anger doesn't impact the person that cut them off. They're just living their life, whatever. They might be in a rush, you don't know. As you said, they might be going slow because they can't go fast. Maybe this person is driving weird because they were in a terrible accident as a child, and they're just even scared to be behind the wheel, and they just made a mistake. But you, in your car, alone in your eternal misery, in that 1 millisecond, that's how you decided to spend it. And that's on you. That's not on anyone else. That's not on the world around you. Because again, you can't control the world around you. You can't make that person walk faster. So you alone, in your center of your universe, you decided that in your last moment on Earth, you were just going to be really angry and sad. And that's just, to me, it's just lame. No, thank you. Because, and you guys know me personally, it's so hard to get me angry. I'm sure you guys don't even know what I look like angry, because
I can't even picture.
And even, again, we've only reconnected recently, but my friends who I've stayed connected with throughout my whole life, most of them have never seen me angry, because to me, anger is just pointless. It's useless. Yes, being engaged, and sometimes you might have to speak up for yourself, but speaking up for yourself and being assertive is not the same as being angry. You can be assertive and take care of you and your loved ones without having to be angry about it. Anger to me is just a useless emotion. It's just, it doesn't impact anyone. Well, it can impact other people destructively, but at the end of the day, it's just impacting you the worst because that's how you decide to spend your last minute. So to me, if you are always living in that present moment, and it's hard, but you at least make the attempt, well then you can choose what that present moment is going to be. And if we're saying that present moment is all you ever have, well then you get to choose what your life is like. And that's the most powerful thing, because again, you can listen to all these self-help gurus that will say, oh, listen to my 5-step program and you'll become a millionaire, or invest in this, or do this, buy this property. That's confusing, that's hard. And that takes a lot of energy to work out. What doesn't take a lot of energy to work out, and almost the biggest self-help get rich quick trick that really is, it's just, this is all you have right now, this is your life. I'm deciding to be happy, bang, like my whole life is happy. And that doesn't mean that each little millisecond slice that you go through will always be happy, but if on average you can make that decision, your life was good. And you weren't alone in that car yelling, you were understanding, you were grateful, you had that awareness and understanding that it's not about you, but because it's not about you, that's empowering, because you get to decide what your life gets to be.
Well, I don't know if you saw, but we just posted something on IG just a second ago, which was, you can't change your environment, but you can always change how you react to it. And that's exactly what you're talking about, because and honestly, like you're saying, I think you've nailed it when you're saying it's the biggest hack that you can do, because that's where every young person goes wrong, because they're and you did a speech on it, and you could probably talk about it much better than I can, but I'll steal some of your words. But a lot of young people, all they're thinking about is that past, right? You mentioned it. You talk about how people are thinking about, that awkward encounter that people had, or that time where you're meant to speak in front of the class, but you fumble your words, so now you're forever living in that moment. And every single time someone talks to you, every time you have a chance to do public speaking, every single time you're trying to ask a guy or a girl out, you're just always thinking on, oh, damn, remember that time where I stuffed up my words? And that's always haunting you. And that's why you can never even live in the moment, because you're forever stuck. And so, and I'm huge on that. So I, even without realizing, I'd say I do a lot of that present day living, because to me, I think there's nothing worse than when you make, well, there's plenty of things worse, but I think it's such a bad habit to have when you make your past your anchor. And like, sure, stuff happens to you that you can't control, and stuff happens to you that you can control and you just made a mistake. But if you're making that your anchor, then you're forever just stuck. And you're not, like you're saying, you can't be happy in the moment, because for you, your moment is the past. Like, that's where you're living. And it's so hard to escape.
Well, pretty much, like, you guys just summed it up so perfectly. That's for words right now. But really, it's just like, living in that present moment. And if you can be grateful for, whatever your life is at that present moment, then you can't really go wrong. And I think another thing is, it's just like showing gratitude to others is what you were speaking about earlier. It's like being in this present moment, and you choosing to understand, or you choosing to be happy, and like, you should spread that to others. And like, if someone else could be having a bad day, and like, if just a little conversation or something can actually cheer them up, and then they'll spread it. It's all like this whole recoil effect. And I think that's just so powerful, in the sense that, like, as humans, like, we can impact one another to have like a better day, or to have a better life. Like, you can say one thing to a person, you can change their life forever. But and also, just to come back a little bit of going back to what you're saying, like people being angry and all that. Half the time when you're angry, you don't even remember the thing you were angry about. So what's the point of being angry? It's like, be grateful for what you have, be happy, and just understand how things are in life.
And to me, grateful is the opposite of anger. Because if you're saying you can be angry about stuff you don't even remember, the opposite of that is just gratitude. It doesn't matter what you're grateful for, as long as you're feeling gratitude for something, then that has a lasting impact on your life. So you can be seeing red That's like when anger, that's what they describe it as. You're seeing red because it's kind of tinted your whole entire everything. It's just angry. So you just say things you don't mean.
Yeah.
You just unleash. You're just completely ruthless. But then when your gratitude, it's the same thing. Rather than seeing red, you're just seeing rose tinted reality. Everything's great.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. So you can pick which one you want. And to me, that one sounds a lot better. Like you're telling me that I can just be happy and nothing in my life has to change.
Yeah.
And in that speech, I briefly mentioned it. It's the difference between happiness by pursuit and happiness by design. Because happiness by pursuit is, you're waiting for that. This kind of brings it back to the start of our conversation. You're waiting for the house, you're waiting for the car, you're waiting for the Victoria's Secret model to be a wife. Like you're waiting for all these things, right? And when those things come, those will probably not be the things that make your life worth living.
Yeah.
Like those things will give you the short-term little boost of endorphins in your brain, and you'll feel great for a week, a month, a year. But then after that, it's back. Everything always comes back to baseline.
Yeah.
So your external environment isn't what's going to dictate it. It's always going to be internally by design. It's what can I do within myself to live a happy life, not what can I do to my environment to make it so I can be happy. It's what can I do to myself and create happiness in me.
Yeah.
And I think if you can master that process, well then you've mastered life. Like there's nothing else left to do.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, again, that doesn't mean complacency. That doesn't mean that you just sit there cross-legged meditating and the world's on fire and your loved ones are starving because you didn't go to work because you're too busy meditating. That's not what it means.
Yeah.
Don't get caught up in that contradiction. It's you stay in the present moment, you're grateful, but that doesn't mean you have to be complacent. You can be grateful for what you have, but still desire more for your loved ones. And then desire isn't inherently bad as long as you're grateful to begin with.
Yeah.
I think desire becomes destructive when you're not originally grateful, because then that's when it opens up the gap, and that's when it creates this distance between who you are, where you are, and who you want to be, where you want to be. If you can be grateful first, then stretch out your hand, kind of pay your dues, be respectful, be grateful for your life, and then ask for more.
Yeah.
Then that's, I think, the sustainable way to do it. If you're asking for more always without being grateful for what you have, or then no matter how much you get, it's never going to make you happy.
We all get caught up in like the monetary value, the materialistic things, but when we are grateful for what we have in life and when we chase happiness, you can't go wrong. Because at that point, if you're just being grateful for what you have and chasing happiness over the monetary value and the materialistic things, when you get those things, they're not going to matter. Like, they're not going to matter anything because you're happy and grateful for how your life is.
I've got 3 things I need to say before you make me forget. So one, I want you to, because we keep referring to the speech, I wouldn't mind you talking about, to those listening on the podcast, that example you used with the red Mustang.
Right.
So remember that before you forget. And you can check out, the full speech on the Instagram page that Andrew cut up for us.
Plug,
YouTube.
plug.
But 2 things then I did want to talk about, and it's going to be here and what we were talking about, since we're shooting through these rapid topics. But another part for me with the gratitude, and you were talking about how you're expressing gratitude towards other people, right? So one way that I I show it is if people have and show loyalty to me, because me, I'm huge on it. So if someone can be loyal to you, and really if you need something or you can ask something, and they're loyal to that degree where they wouldn't even question it. And if you're asking, you need something to be done, or if they can do something, or anything like that, and their loyalty is so strong, they're like, I'll take care of that, or I'll take care of you. Then they're the people I'm truly grateful for, and then that's when I'll do everything in my power to make sure that they're looked after, or to make sure their family's looked after, because that loyalty aspect is so important to me. Then that's when I go, I will 100%. I'm forever grateful for you, and no matter how much time passes. If you've even shown that loyalty in the past, then I'll always be there regardless. And the other one was what we were talking about right at the start, when we're just talking about kind of the perspective to it all, and how you think and perceive gratitude to be. And there was because we were talking about happiness, right? There was I love this quote about happiness, and that's that happiness is a lot like a glass window, and it just so happens to be that we can see through this stuff. So it's like, well, what do you see when you look outside? And I know you can't see this, but what do you see when you look out there? And it's like, oh, I can see grass, I can see a shed, I can see a fence. And this is where people's perception of happiness is warped a lot, because happiness is like a glass window, meaning the fact that if you were to adjust your eyes, then you see the glass in the window, and it's always there, and you can always see it. But not many people do, because they're
too busy what's on the other side.
They're focused on the wrong thing. And that's like a camera, and your eyes are like a camera, where if you're looking outside a glass window, you'll see the trees, you'll see the people, but it's always been in front of you the whole time, and that is happiness. It's just your perception towards happiness is the difference.
Yeah.
So, take us through, the
I can't remember what
do you remember the wording?
Can't remember what it was called.
Baader-Meinhof or something like that.
Oh yeah, Baader-Meinhof.
Yeah, Baader-Meinhof, that's it.
Yeah, there's this I guess phenomenon that Baader-Meinhof, most people haven't heard of it, but we've all experienced it to some degree, and it's when you get exposed to a new piece of information for the first time, and then suddenly you start seeing it everywhere. So the example I used was the example of a red Mustang. So say if you're flipping through a magazine, Henry, and you see this like full cover spread of like this red Mustang, and it just looks sick, and you're like, wow, this is amazing. How good is this? And you close the magazine, and I don't know, you're in the city, and it's time to come back home. So you're coming home, you're on the tram or you're on the train, and out on the freeway you see like 6 red Mustangs, and you go, what the hell's this? Like, why is there, like, I haven't seen 6 red Mustangs all month, my whole life, but today, after looking at that magazine, there's suddenly 6.
Yeah.
Well, what's going on? And what I think the inclination is to think that, well, now that you just think that, oh, there's just suddenly appearing everywhere, like, what's going on? This is crazy. The reality is that those Mustangs were always driving past you for months and years. It's just that now that your mind paid attention to it, now it's always looking for it in your environment. So it's become something that's on your mind. So to me, I use that metaphor for gratitude as well, because if you practice gratitude in the same way that those red cars would have been invisible to you, you could have just walked one. You could have been walking right next to one down the street, and you wouldn't have seen it because your mind's eye was blind to it. It just wasn't something you were paying attention to. But now that your mind's eye is paying attention to it, it's not even what's in front of your eyes, it's what's in your environment that you're actually paying attention to. So if you practice gratitude, it's the same thing. It's suddenly you start seeing reasons to be grateful, and you might go, what's all this? My life is so good, how did this happen? But it's not that your life got better in the same way that there's not literally more red cars on the road. It's just that you're paying attention now. So suddenly, there's so many things to be grateful for. In the same way that those cars were invisible before your mind's eye was searching for them, reasons to be happy were invisible too. And that's like the saddest thing, because it's there, it's in your life. You just got to have it actively scanning in your mind. And once you do that through gratitude, well then, your life, not only on an intellectual level where you're saying, oh, I'm going to be grateful for this and this and this, it's actually something that's embodied, and you can feel it, and you say, wow, actually, damn, I am so grateful for this. There is a lot going on. The sun is shining brighter. I don't know what happened, but gratitude happened.
Thanks for tuning in to the Prometheus Podcast, where we aim to bring the fire back to the people.